And welcome to this webinar for Unit 5, Module 3, IT Facilities. The purpose of this unit is shown on screen there. It's all about looking at the operational aspects of ICT and the ICT infrastructure. As you work through the unit, you'll see how things have changed over the year. The unit mentions IT suites, which certainly in primary, I think we're generally moving away from. But that then does raise questions about lighting and temperature and humidity as well as seating in classrooms. As you access the learning resources, remember about your assessment task, which is about researching and accessing current guidance on an IT infrastructure, and you have to provide a report to the school's ICT manager. If we just have a look at this page here, this gives a good sort of summing up of what is actually covered under IT provision. So you can see the sort of goods and services. So it's not just about the hardware, it's about broadband and phone lines, and also about the maintenance and support that you use for IT. And in this document, this is the DfE guide for purchasing IT. It talks about broadband, and that might cover the core service, the connectivity and filtering and security, but it also might include email hosting and video conferencing and cloud backup as well. So for this webinar, I'm going to summarise some of the reading materials so you can target your research a little bit more effectively. And what will become apparent when you're reading through is that not a lot of the guidance has been updated for quite a long time. Now this is partly because government Quango bodies were they were folded. A lot of the research was done by a Quango that was called Vector. And this was actually so this was a funded body that promoted technology in schools, and it was actually the first Quango to be cut due to the cost-cutting measures. So I'm just going to have a quick look at this document, and well, I'm just going to give a very, very brief summing up of this, with it being 93 pages. I'm just going to tell you really what it covers, so you can just dip into it if you feel that you need to. So, section 1 just deals with it's quite an academic piece of writing, written by Strathclyde University. Section 1 just talks about where the authors drew the research from. Section 2 talks about the importance of the senior leadership team being a driver for success in the teaching of ICT and the need for an IT strategy. And it also talks about how new teachers would be expected to learn IT skills in teacher training. And it also gives some interesting stats about computer to pupil ratios. And if you want to think about how far ICT has come, the report notes that in 2005, 63% of primary schools had at least one whiteboard. You can compare that with now, where the expectation is that there's a well, not necessarily a whiteboard anymore, but there is some type of device like that in every classroom. Section 3 talks about the impact of IT on attainment and how it's been. It has the most impact when it's embedded as part of the normal learning experience, and it does talk about at length on specific subjects such as maths and literacy. And so there was just one point that you may find useful. So if I'm just moving to page 54. This is a page that you might want to look at later, but if you just remember, it is about the operational aspect It's not about the teaching side. But you might just want to read through on page 54 the key points there, and it talks about the different devices, so whiteboards, laptops, digital video, and video conferences, and it assesses. It's just something that you might want to gain wider clarification of. And another page that you might find useful. Page 74, you might just want to have a quick look at the e-confidence school, and this talks about security and kind of obviously the importance of safeguarding and e-learning. So that's another page that you might just wish to look at. And then again, if you just want to link it back to the actual sort of teaching and learning, this on page 76, 5.2. That again will, if you just wanted to widen your learning there, just to give yourself a broader understanding of that. In terms of, so I wouldn't read this document from all 93 pages of it, because it is more linked to the actual teaching of it, and this isn't what the unit's about, but there's just a couple of pages that you might want to look at, and each section has a summary of key points. So have a look at the key points first before deciding to read the full section. The NUT safety and school guidance, you do need to read that from sort of the beginning to end. It's very comprehensive. It is large font. It won't actually take that long to read, but you will refer to this when you're writing up your assignment. And this guidance is generally taken from the health and safety website. It talks about sort of laptop trolleys and things. Basically, I'll leave you to read that. I would also suggest that you read in the resources the Making the Most of Your IT Investment. That again is sort of fairly short, and it'll just improve your overall understanding. So what I've looked at, if I just refer you to this website here. So this is, you can find it, you might have to just search for this VECTA self-review framework, but it's in the National Archives. And this framework, just scroll down a second. You can access the PDF documents for each of those sections, and it's a bit like an audit of where you are IT-wise in school. I'll just summarise. We're going to have a look at one of the sections in detail, but I'm just going to summarise what the other ones cover. So leadership and management. It just highlights again that to be highly effective, IT in school should have a clear vision of how it's going to be embedded into the curriculum and how it supports the school's visions and aims. It has to be understood and embraced by all staff and governors, and staff and the school will continually review the vision, and you should have a strategy in place with an IT leader who supports and coordinates ICT. And the strategy will be included in the school development plan and will have budget provision. You also need to understand the environmental costs, so you need to consider recycling and the energy used, and the school will also be vigilant on e-safety and keep up to date with the new challenges of that. The planning section, so this is talking about curriculum planning. It needs to maximise learning opportunities using IT and personalised to individual pupil capabilities and learning needs. And it also talks about the need for review and success criteria in learning. The learning section talks about how all staff will integrate IT into learning and how the use of IT in school should lead to continued use and learning outside school. The assessment of IT capabilities about the teacher's assessment of pupils using ICT. Professional development, it's kind of it's measured and how it's supported and used. And then the final one there is the resources, which we're going to have a look at in detail. When I can get it, here it is. So each of these series of questions has a similar format. It's a self-review tool, and you kind of have to decide where your school is at, whether level 1 being the kind of highest level, down to there. So this section here, physical environment, it needs you to consider the classroom layout or the IT suite. You need to think about how ICT tends to classroom, so the move to classroom-based rather than an IT suite. So in an IT suite, the environment was more easily managed. You need to consider the type of devices that are used, workstations and laptops, tablets and things. And does that create a problem with the glare from windows, the height of the desks, etc.? And so, for example, do you have window blinds, or is that an improvement that you'd make? So this one here, sufficiency, suitability and availability of hardware. So again, that's sort of fairly self-explanatory, really. What kind of, do you have a wide range of, it's sort of considering the different devices, and are there any access issues? And also, so it says about access beyond the school, so it's also giving consideration to those pupils who can't access ICT at home. And connectivity. So this is talking about kind of super fast broadband and Wi-Fi or cabling. This is an issue certainly in rural schools where some areas still don't have super fast broadband, although the government have been investing in it recently. I still work in some schools that have an ISDL line. The internet frequently has outages, but clearly external connectivity will be outside your control, but you need to sort of think about that as you're going through this assignment. This section here, digital learning resources, just about investing, that's an investment consideration as well. And then environment for online learning. So again, it's ensuring that ICT is embedded in all subjects, but it's also about governors and parents and staff. So quite a lot of websites now have a secure area for staff and governors to log into, but it should be the first point for parents to perhaps go to get the questions answered. Management information systems, so that needs to be fully integrated, and the most appropriate person should be capturing a particular set of data, and then that data be accessible to all those that need it. So think about whether the same data is input for more than once for different users. For example, pupil lists. Do your teachers continually input these details, and for that matter, to the admin office? If it's input once, it should be manipulated to be able to be given useful for all users. And then procurement. So historically, ICT was probably bought piecemeal without any strategy, and that's simply more a budget issue, and because it was a relatively new thing. But think about whether there's a clear plan for future purchases, and is this reflected in your budget? So do you consider how, and also do you consider how ICT is recycled, and how do you do this? And is energy consumption and air conditioning consumption taken into consideration? And technical support, so that is also our part of your operational side of ICT. And that question is really asking you to assess whether there's trained support in place, whether it be in-house or you purchase kind of service level agreement. And then safeguarding, data security safeguarding. So e-safety is continually in place, for example, and data security is continually reviewed. So it's all about making sure that your passwords are changed frequently and your filters are in place, as well as having a disaster recovery plan. So what would you do? Ask yourself what you would do if your admin system was destroyed in a fire, or if you couldn't get into school for a length of time, exactly if asbestos was discovered or something. This one, evaluation. So really the first thing is to ask yourself, does your school have an IC strategy? Certainly where I was this afternoon, I would say they don't. They certainly don't have a written one. And that's where it falls down a bit. So the head teacher might have an idea in the head, but then it's not necessarily clearly communicated. And that sort of going through this documentation here will actually be quite helpful to you and help you assist you in answering the assignment question. If I can just open it up to any general questions about the actual webinar content. So I'm going to, there's only two of you, so I'm going to unmute you both. Hello, Elaine. You've got any questions about the webinar?
Hi Fiona, no, not particularly about the webinar. It's a bit of a tricky one to me because we're only a nursery school, so although IT is on the agenda, it's not big as it would be in a primary or a secondary school because the age range of our children is only up to 5. Right. So IT is not a big thing in our school. Obviously we realise the importance of it.
We'll maybe have a chat about that in a minute. And Jane, is there anything that you want to ask, add, or anything?
Well, we're at the moment we're just reviewing all our safeguarding policies for the governor's meeting that's coming up, and one of the most prevalent ones that we are looking at, and we do look at it every year, is what you've just gone through here, for the e-safety. And so the safeguarding is obviously really important. So this is really helpful to help broaden my horizons on what's needed, so I can help to redefine the policies.
So I think I'll just have a flick through my notes to see if one of those other things, so maybe even the leadership and management section, but it's worth scanning through all of the questions, but just sort of to just scan through this and then, but I personally would recommend that you actually look through the resources PDF questions in a little bit more detail to kind of prompt some of your thoughts. I'm going to actually end the webinar now, so I'm going to take it off recording.